was only for the night.
We're riding around the world to road test Ruffly gear in the K9 Moto Cockpit and to raise $100,000 for Girl Up. Every 6 months, we tackle a new challenge. First was the Arctic Ocean, then the Darien Gap, and now we're aiming for the bottom of South America.
My heart is home with you.
Whimsy spooked me as I was coming. She went right in front of me. I was about to gun it, and then I stalled.
All right.
So I really just went down in this bush. I don't exactly know what happened. I got over the lip, which was hard, and then I was sort of on an angle. I was like, okay, I gotta go. I gave power, and then something happened, and my bike just turned, and I fell into this prickly tree, and then I got my boot stuck because it's on an angle. And if Greg pulls the bike, it was crushing my foot. So I was able to slide my foot out from my boot. My boot is still stuck under the bike. Once we ride it, I'll get my boot back.
You all right?
Yeah.
Four. Nice and easy. We got it?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's fine. Pretty fantastic campsite, and yet, given the context of the absolutely gorgeous scenes that we've been riding through, this is really kind of just an eyesore. There's not much to it. And yet, it's relatively low ground, it's relatively protected from the wind, and that's really the key, because you know what? You can't take a beautiful view into the tent with you, and it definitely can knock you off the side of a cliff when those winds pick up.
This camp area that we picked, which is just basically a field where cows roam and poop,
Cows or llamas?
I think it's cows. That's big poop over here. Look at that. Look at that big poop.
That's llama-sized poop. It's cow-sized?
No, that's cow patties. And so this whole area has a bit of a slant. So we camped over here.
Why do I bring this big of a toilet paper wad for our 4 days of riding? I can't replenish every 4 days. Yes, I can. This is about this much is me, and about this much is
Gregory.
Jessica.
We're talking about the tent. We're talking about the tent, not the toilet paper. And we don't need to talk
Jessica
about going to the bathroom.
Wrap it around her hand, create like a barrier against all elements. Whereas I can make one square last for like 12
That's
wipes.
disgusting. Anyhow, this was our tent. You can see it was a bit of a slant. So all night long, Greg and I were pulling ourselves back up a little bit. I kept sliding into Whimsy down at my feet and had to pull myself up. So it wasn't the most restful night, but it was calm. There was no wind and no traffic. We're getting ready to head out to the Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid Museum in San Vicente. It's another hour and 50 minutes from where we camped last night. And then when we get there to our one-room museum, which I hope is open, it will turn back around and we have another 3 hours back down this road. So the reason why we're sort of like pushing this is on Saturday. So today is Friday. Tomorrow at noon, they are shutting down all movement on the roads because there is a judicial election happening. And when these elections happen, they don't allow any vehicle movement. People have to stay within their villages. So we can't continue moving after noon. So what we really want to do is be able to go to the museum this morning, ride all the way back, and then stop in Tupiza, which is a medium-sized little pueblo that has some hotels and one we know is pet-friendly. And then from there, early on Saturday morning, we're going to do, it's like 96 kilometers. I think it's about 2 hours to get to the border. And then once we get to the border, it'll be before noon. So they'll be able to stamp us out and everything. And then we can get into Argentina where they're not having that problem. So I know this looks really easy, but I'm going to actually ride it without Whimsy. Because when I got in here yesterday evening, she sort of spooked me by walking right in front of me as I was going up like the slope to get up to here. And then I tipped over, and then as I started again, and then I had a big tip over. So I'm going to ride it without her just because of that little squiggle that I had there in Little Falls. And then I'll put her on when we get back down to the road. And you know, that's the good thing about like having Whimsy, being able to take her on and off easily. She doesn't have to go on all these hard stretches with me. I can let her down. She can run beside the bike. She loves that too. So it makes me feel a little bit less anxious. If there's a tough stretch, I'll just be like, okay, Whimsy, it's time for you to go and take a little jog.
We're a few hours into the day at this point, and we've just hit a series of washes and blowouts. And they've all been challenging but doable until this one, which to me looks like a pretty ugly situation, particularly on big bikes, and particularly after all the other ones we've already done. So I don't know if this is the end of the Butch and Sundance pilgrimage for us, but we gotta stop and think this through.
We got to this washout, and I was first. My bike is up there, and I saw it because we had just gotten through another one back there, which Greg had to help me through. And then we got here and I see that there's a big dip down. I'm like, Greg, stop, wait further up. We walk down and it's like 3 feet across this stretch here, which has the water running through it and big loose rocks. And then to go up where Greg is there, they've built sort of like a little rock bridge to go up this. And then like this part is all rubble and it's very narrow. So like you need power to go up that, and you have to gun it because any little rock that you hit is going to turn you off and you're going to either fall off this side or the other side of that little ledge. So we looked at it and we decided that we're going to have to call it and turn around. With our big bikes, even if we take off the cases, there hasn't been anybody riding through here since early this morning. So if we get caught on something, and if Greg gets caught and I can't lift the bike, or I get caught and Greg can't lift it and there's nobody else around, we're going to be stuck out here for a long time. So I think we're going to have to turn the bikes around and then head back through what we already did.
This is the hardest part of this trip for me. This is the hardest part for my heart. When we get to spots like this that you look at and you just sort of in your pit know this is a bad idea and this is the end of the line. Now, number one, it never comes out as gnarly on camera as it looks or at least feels when you're in the middle of it. Number two, if you're a lightweight ADV rider, a motocross or dirt bike rider, this has you licking your lips and you really barely even notice it. But when you're traveling around the world on heavy adventure bikes and you've got your whole life there, and every challenge, every piece of this adventure is important because each piece of it defines you and gives you the courage and the confidence to keep moving forward. And yet at the same time, there are sort of deal breaker moments where this isn't the right place or time to really risk it like that.
Come on, saddle up. Come.
We didn't make it. Turns out that we heard from a tour operator here in town in Tupisa that the museum is almost never open because no one goes there. And now that the rainy season has begun, it's totally sort of at chance if you're going to make it or not. She said that they get there sometimes on those small little motorbikes, the locals, make their way. But for any kind of tours or anything, they need to use a 4-wheel drive. And when the rains start, it can be anybody's guess. So we were anybody's guess today, and it didn't turn out so good for us.
Hi guys, thanks for watching Go Roughly in real time. If you love Whimsy's gear, head on over to GoRuffly.com and check out our collars, leashes, beds, bandanas, and more for your dog and all the dogs that you know. And if you're interested in the K9 Moto Cockpit, which is how Whimsy rides with me on the back of my motorcycle, you'll get all that information about sizing, mounting, and everything else at GoRuffly.com. Thanks so much for watching, guys, and don't forget to subscribe.